G'day, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac. We have completed our 5-star ratings, and of course that now means that we can move on to the more exciting topic of MapKit and CoreLocation. So in this short and brief, hopefully, tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up a simple view controller with a MapKit view or a map view, and just the basics of CoreLocation and what that means. So let's have a look. So I'll just get my screen set up for you, and we're going to have a single view application. One thing you don't want to do is call it MapKit, because that's also the name of the framework that we want to install. And of course, a bit later when we look at our view, you don't want to call the view map, because map, of course, is a method that you can use on arrays and things like that, and so it is confusing. So you should always call it like map view or the map or something like that. Anyway, don't call it map, and don't call your project MapKit. So let's call our project MapKit test, and we'll save it on the desktop. There's some lovely pics of me because I'm redoing the pics of the thumbnails for my older YouTube to put my ugly mug on them. Okay, so typically we're going to do this in code, so we get rid of the storyboard and we get rid of the launch screen. We'll move our info pList under our app delegate. We'll put the view controller into a new group that we will of course call view controllers. We will put our assets into a new group that we will call models, and we will create a new group that we will call extensions, and put it in the right spot. Okay, so our view controller we're actually going to call map view controller, so we'll get that set up. And with MapKit, MapKit is the map that you see on the screen of your phone, and it basically you can see you can add things to the top, like you can obviously put pins and things on it. You can put overlays, which can be circles, or they can be polygons, which is basically shapes, and they can lay on top of the map. And obviously you can use directions and navigation and things like that. So that's what MapKit does. And then there is CoreLocation, and CoreLocation is basically the directions and the compass within your phone. So CoreLocation is basically to do with finding out where your phone is. And so you'll see that within MapKit there are some delegate functions which are very similar to the same delegate functions that are in CoreLocation, and this can be confusing. And the way that I remember it is CoreLocation is about where the phone is, and the map is about where you're navigating about, and they're not necessarily the same place. So just bear that one in mind. So what are we going to do? Okay, well, in our map view controller we can get rid of our did memory warning. We don't need to worry about that. What do we want to do in view did load? Well, we want to create a map view. So, and as I said, don't call it map, because that just creates some problems, and we need to import MapKit, and we'll, for the sake of it, we will import CoreLocation. So let MapKit equals mk map view, and we're just going to give that a frame, and our frame is going to be the screen. Screen.main.bounds. Now we're doing this outside of view do load, so we have to use this screen.main.bounds because the view dimensions have not been created yet. And we're going to put this map view controller within a navigation controller. So we're going to have navigation item title equals map test. Oh, and now we've got our map view, and what do we need to do with all views? We need to add it as a subview. So not as, add subview map view, and it's a delegate method. So we need to set the delegate. So map view dot delegate equals self, and there are a lot of potential map view delegate methods. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create an extension, which is just a Swift file, and our Swift file here, assuming that's going to be in the right place. Looking good. We don't want to call it file. We want to call it map view controller plus MapKit. And then in our extension, what we're going to do is we're going to import the UI kit. We will import CoreLocation, and we will import MapKit, and then we just create an extension of our map view controller, and we will include the MK map view delegate. And so this way we'll put all of our MapKit related delegate calls in this one source file, so they're easy to find, and we don't end up with one of those big fat view controllers that people always complain about. And I think that is pretty much all we need to do for the MapKit component. This tutorial is really about CoreLocation, and that is finding out where we are on the phone. And so if you think about it, the map is only going to be displayed on the view controller, where you need to, see where you're going. You're not really fussed if you're in your login screen or in, I don't know, in some sort of settings file, what's going on with the map view and all these delegates. So you only need them when you're on, this is the front view controller. Talk of which, we need to get our front view controller extension for app delegate. So we're going to create another extension. This time I will call it app delegate. I just call it plus extensions. And what we want to do with this one is, again, we want to access the UI kit. And this, if you haven't seen it before in some of my tutorials, this is a really nifty extension which basically allows you to, or tells you what the, or passes back what the top view controller is. If it's a navigation controller, it returns the navigation controller. If it's a tab controller, it returns the tab controller. And if it's just a presented view controller, then it returns that controller. So it allows us to figure out, if we're in the app delegate or anywhere else, what the currently displayed view controller is. Okay, so we're going to use that a bit later, but seeing as I mentioned it, I thought I would just throw that in. Now, CoreLocation. So what I was saying is the MapKit and all those delegates, you really only need to know about what's going on there when the map is being displayed. But quite often you want to know where you are, which is basically CoreLocation, where the phone is all of the time. And so CoreLocation, we want to hook that up as a delegate method within the app delegate, which is the overall encompassing nature of your app, rather than just for the map view. Now, that's not to say that you can't do it only for the map view, but this is basically the way we do it. And generally speaking, what you often need to know is you need to know where you are, and hence, like, a, dare I say it, a global variable. So let's have a look at CoreLocation and what it does. And okay, so best way to do this. Okay, so we're in our did finish launching with options, and I suppose what we do want to do with, there's two things we want to do. First thing we want to do, which I haven't done because I deleted the windows and the whatever the other one's called, I can never remember. We've deleted these launch screens and this main storyboard, so we do need to just quickly create just a default view, which we will call default, and whack it in, and then in here we need to change main to default, and that just gets rid of a simple one of those amber error messages. May not even exist now in 9 point, what are we up to? 9.3, but it did exist in 9 and 9.1. So anyway, that gets rid of an amber alert. And of course, in App Delegate, what we do need to do, seeing as we don't have a storyboard to punch us to, is we need to set up our window equals to UI window with a frame of UI screen.main.bounds. We have our view controller equal to our map, spelled correctly, map view controller. We have a, because I said I want to wrap it in a nav controller, so we have a nav controller equal to a UI navigation controller with a root view controller equal to our map view controller. And then we go window dot root view controller equals nav controller and window dot make key invisible. Okay, so that's when we run our app. We're now going to punch out our map window, and it's going to turn up. Let's have a look, see if that works. Fingers crossed. Oh, where do I go? I went for the phone. Let's swap that to a iPhone 8. Run it again. Oh, it's launching away. There it is. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going to happen here, but okay, there you go. So we've got our map, which looks great, and we've got our navigation title, and there's things we can do to, you know, tidy all this up. But this is a demo on MapKit and CoreLocation. So we've got a map turning up, which is great. What do we do with location services? Now, location services is one of those things where you need to provide a little message in the info pList, and it's a privacy listing. The names are never what you're after, but anyway, let's go plus, and then privacy location. So you can do a couple of different types. There's location when in use, which is the new one. There's location usage description. There's location always using, and location, I don't know, always and something else. Anyway, we're going to pick privacy location when in use, and over here we just need to put a little string that says we need to know where you are for to use this app, or something like that, to use this navigation app. I don't know if we're going to make it a navigation app, but in any event, whatever your app is, you need to put a little message in there for location when in use. Now, so when in use, that means that you're only using it while it's in the foreground. If it's in the background, if it moves to the background, then there's nothing happening. But if you the system will stop sending you location messages because you're not registered when the system is in background. Now, if you want to run it in background, then you need like always in use, and you need a message for that, and people will need to provide that information. So now the way I sort this out is I create a model for which I call my CoreLocation. So it's a Swift file, and we have my CoreLocation. It's saved away there in models, and we're going to import CoreLocation. And basically, what I use this as, I use it as a singleton, and as you will become aware, CoreLocation and MapKit are already singletons. So if you're a singleton Nazi, then all we're doing is we're isolating this away from the rest of the whole thing, to make the rest of the whole other singleton, the whole iOS singleton, to just to make life easier for us, so we can debug and things like that. So in my CoreLocation, we are going to create a class called my CoreLocation, and it's going to be a singleton. So we go static let shared equal my CoreLocation, and because it's a singleton, because we want it to be a singleton, we need to create a private init. Okay, so we've got our private init, and so what is going to be now my CoreLocation, and we're going to have 3 properties. One of those is going to be the current location, and one of them is going to be the current coordinate, but we're going to call it current position, and the third one is going to be the last location. So we're going to set these up so that they're publicly available but only privately settable, so we can access them from anywhere as a value, but we can only set them through the method function of the class. So we're going to have a current location, which is a CL location, and then we're going to have a public private settable var, which is going to be current position, and that is a CL location. It's the bottom there, coordinate 2D, and then we're going to have a public private settable var, which is going to be our last location, and that is going to be a CL location as well. So when we initialize things, what we need to do is go current location is equal to CL location, and there's this nifty thing here, and we're just going to set to 0.0, 0.0, and for current position, we can use the CL location coordinate latitude, longitude 0.0 and 0.0. So latitude and longitude are both doubles. And then finally, our last location, that is just going to be a CL location as well. And we use this latitude, longitude, give it 0.0, 0.0. And then what we need is to be able to set these variables down the track. So we'll go save, or set, I should say, set current location, which is going to take a location, CL location. And what do we want to do? Well, if we get a location, we want our last location to be a last location. Dear me. a last location to be equal to the current location before we change it, and then our current position is going to be equal to the location that we were passed dot coordinate, and that coordinate is a one of these CoreLocation coordinate 2Ds, and our current location is going to be equal to the location. Now, if you don't do it this way, you go and start typing it all out, and the rest of it, you'll find that there's all these chained optionals in here, and it just becomes a nightmare having to, you're always going to want to look at what the latitude is, and that's what you can see here. You've got latitude and longitude. You're always going to want to know what these latitude and longitude values are if you're calculating speeds and all the rest of it. And if all of these have got little optionals in there, it's just an absolute nightmare trying to sort it all out. So hence we do this to just make life easier for us, and yeah, so that's what we do. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to create a file for our app delegate to get all our CoreLocation stuff happening. So we create a new file up here, and we've got app delegate plus CoreLocation, and I'm not quite sure if we need UIKit or not, but anyway, we're definitely going to need CoreLocation, and we're going to create an extension. Extension for app delegate, and we're going to comply with, oh god, my nose is itchy. We're going to comply with the CoreLocation Manager Delegate. It's a bit of a mouthful. And the first thing we want to do, I suppose, oh, my nose is going to kill me. The first thing we want to do is we're going to have an initialization function, location services, and we're going to call that from our app delegate here. It's one of the first things we're going to do. We're going to do init location services, so that we know that we're getting things popping up saying, would you like to, will you accept us and for to use the the app, whatever, wants to know if they can access your location, all that privacy stuff. And of course it's a delegate, so hang on, up here in our app delegate we need to create a variable called location manager, which is a CoreLocation manager. We'll actually instantiate it. No. Okay, so we've got a location manager that's been created. So here we want to go location manager dot, maybe we need to compile so it sees everything. Who knows? Maybe I didn't spell it correctly. CoreLocation manager. Yes, there you go. As I said, it's a delegate, so delegate equals self, and what we want to do is we want to request when in use authorization. So that's the bit where it pops up and it says the app wants to use this. That was that pList that we set up over here, and that does some nifty things for us. And then we just say if CoreLocation manager dot location service enabled. So if that is true, we can get rid of these braces or brackets. Then there's some basic configuration stuff that we want to do. Location manager dot desired accuracy. Now there's a whole heap of these CL location. So accuracy to within a kilometer, accuracy to within 100 meters, to 3 kilometers, to the nearest 10 meters, or the one we're using, which is best for navigation. So depending on how much you want to drain the battery, you can probably have an if. Depending on how often you want to drain the battery or how quickly you want to drain the battery depends on how accurate you're expecting all of this. And Location Manager actually gets the location from several different sources, and so basically, depending on how broad you want your 3 kilometers or 100 meters or 10 meters or whatever, depending on which one of those you select depends on what services are used by your phone to determine exactly where you are and the accuracy that you will obtain. So then there's also this Location Manager dot activity type. What is it that you are doing? And well, we're going to drive a car. So we've got automatic navigation, or we've got other navigation. Then they have this distance filter, which we are going to set to, well, normally it's a number. So normally I would put in like 10, every 10 meters I want to get a bit of an update. But because we're debugging, and your phone might be attached to your laptop, or even if it's wireless, you're not going to get up and walk 10 meters every time you want to test a movement. So they have this KCL distance filter none, which means just the smallest movement and you're going to get a reading, but you probably don't want that in your final app. So if you do what I do is, like, I have a globals thing and I say, K production boolean equals false. I'll put a let there, of course, or var, whatever. It's a let actually. And so when I'm playing around, I will have just some code that says, if K productions, or if that's true, then well, in fact, I probably wouldn't even do it like that, but let's do it properly. So let's go K production, if K production, if that, else. So if we're in production, we want it to be 10.0. If we're not in production, then we want it to be filter none. And then when I load up to the App Store as a release version or a test flight version, that's going to go to other people, and we don't want to drain their batteries because they're not always attached to the cord and the USB, etc. Continually getting power, so it'll just switch to true, and then it'll automatically change that. So anyway, that's something that I do. And then there's all these like things in Location Manager that you can do. So there's this pauses location updates automatically, and you want that to be set to false. You want to get all of the location updates. I don't know why you would ever set it to true. Maybe you automatically want to start it up yourself if you've been idle for long periods of time or something like that. And then you want to, strangely enough, you want to request your location so you can find out where you are. And even though you've made that request, you also need to start updating your location. Now we'll just leave that there for the time being, but we're going to come back to this. Okay, so this is our initialization. To comply with the CoreLocation Manager Delegate, there is a did fail with error. If there was a problem, did fail, that looks like it. And we just, who cares if we've got an error? Remembering CoreLocation, the whole point is to find out where we are. We're just after a coordinate. So if it came with an error, well, you know, really, who cares? But we can put a little print message in case it happens. Manager failed with error, bang, error. So you've got to have one of those, and oh, dearie me. Right, so we've requested authorization. How do we find out what was the result? How do we know? Did they accept us? Did they say no way? Did they deny us? What is the situation there? Well, there is a delegate, strangely enough, called did change authorization, and there's just some sort of standard code that you can use. If you go to Stack Overflow, you can find something similar to this and download it. Now I'm doing it in the app delegate, so I need to use this top window that we had over here to find out what the current window is, because we're not sure when we're actually asking this. And essentially it comes back with the status, and it says not determined, which, like, in the initial instance when you first run the app and there's no saved value, it will be not determined, it won't know. And then if you've asked for authorized when in use, then you want to start update location. And if you've got authorized always, we also want to start updating the location. And then there's this restricted type. So in order to for completeness, you might get this restricted type. Restricted is for things like parental controls, or some major corporates or things like that. Or you imagine, you know, Barack Obama, if we got rid of his BlackBerry, then you know, they wouldn't just want him having access. Anyway, if you've got this restricted, if you've got a restricted iPhone, then the users are unable to enable location services. It basically means they can't use your app. So we've got a little alert that pops up and says your device is restricted and cannot use location services. You aren't able to use this app. It's just what I said. And then the final thing is that, well, it's denied, and that means that they've said, nah, we're not going to give you access to where I currently am. And so we say, well, to use this app, we need your location, you know. And then we give them two options: to go to the settings or to cancel. And, you know, we can open the settings if they go to the settings, and we present that, blah, blah. Okay, so that's how we do everything. And so we've got this manager dot, a manager is a parameter that's passed here, start updating location. And what we really want to do is we want to create our own functions called start updating location and stop at updating location, because there's some additional things that we want to do. So we've got function start updating location. That's in a really bad spot. Why can't I? Maybe I need more. Let's put it at the top of the page. Okay, so we've got start updating location, and what do we do? Well, because we might start and stop it if we're going into and out of the foreground, because we're only in use, we still need to check that when we went into the background, our sneaky person hasn't changed their authorization status or turned off location services because they're running out of battery or whatever things people do. So let the status equal to CL authorization status equals CL location manager dot authorization status, and then if status is equal to denied, well, then we're sort of stuffed. We go print location services is disabled in settings. And if we wanted to, you know, we could do this thing again, create this alert and send them to that. We could refactor this alert and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Now they can't be restricted because last time they were restricted, and so we would have already said, hey, it's restricted, you can't use the app. So we're not going to get restricted, but we've covered off denied. And so the only other options, we've already asked it once, so we can't get not determined, so we can only get authorized in use or authorized always. Because we're using the lesser of those two, because we only want in use, and always is bigger, you know, set wise, it's a bigger set than when in use. We, on all other occasions, we're able to use the app. And so you go location manager dot, we're going to add this one in, allows background location updates. Now we wouldn't use this, but if you're using always, then with always you need to allow background location updates equals true, otherwise we don't need it. And then you've got location manager dot start updating location. Okay, so that's going to start sending us location updates. And then we're going to have the reverse, which is a function called stop updating location. And so we're going to go location manager dot stop updating location. And for the time being, that's all we're going to do. So we've got it authorized and we've said, hey, start sending us information about where we are. How do we capture that information? Well, I'm glad you asked. And this is the key method in Location Manager. It's called did update locations. And what this does is it returns our location manager, and it returns an array of locations. So it will return this ongoing array of locations about where we are. Now, if we look at, well, and the first thing we need to do is we need to get our current location is the last item in this array. So just before I do that, init location services, did I? Yes, I have called it. Okay, no worries. Okay, so is the last item in this array. So what we need to do is we need to go guard let new location equal locations dot last, else print this is a bad location, and we will just simply return. So the whole point of this current exercise is to remove is to remove or get rid of any coordinate that is not ideal. Okay, so so we need to make sure we've actually got one. So we've got one, that's good, we continue on. But if we throw them away, well, we don't care, right? So the next thing is that all of these locations, if we look at new location and what the variables are and stuff, there is a timestamp, and we want to, and which is when the location was I don't know, was created. And the thing is that, like, sometimes if you're in like a really poor area, like if you're walking through a forest and you know that your phone's got a bad signal and things like that, then or you're inside or whatever, it could take a long time to get that location, and so by the time you receive it, it might not actually be where you are, right? And we know, we've all turned on our phones and we've looked at a map and we know that we're on the corner of a street, but we can see the blue dot where we currently are, and it's like slowly making its way towards where we are as the phone sort of updates the location. Okay, so basically, I suppose that's more a distance issue, but the thing is, with timing, if you're going through a tunnel or whatever, there could be a delay, and so you need to know that the location is timely. So, what do we want to do? So we want to get a location age. So let location age be a time interval, and if we make that equal to minus new location dot timestamp dot time interval since now, and then we just simply go if we're going to type if location age is too long, k max time age, so I have a constant for it, then we just go print location update too old, and we return. Now you're probably not going to get that one on your Mac. It's probably more likely that you'll get it. Now I need to define this. So let k, what was it called? Max time age, which is a time interval, and we just set it to 60 milliseconds, I think that is. You can change that value. That's why we've set it as a constant, but at least you know what it is. It's not a magic number. And where are we going to? Okay, so we've got rid of all the ones that are too old. And then there's another thing called horizontal accuracy. And this is the one I was telling you about, where like you're on the corner and like the blue dot is like slowly making its way towards you. And there's two possibilities here. So if our new location dot horizontal accuracy is negative, i.e. less than 0, then it can't calculate it, it's bad, right? So in this case, we're just going to go print invalid horizontal accuracy, and again we're going to throw that one away. We're going to return. And the other case is if it's too broad an accuracy, then we don't want that either, because that is the case where like the blue dot is far away. So, and we'll just give that a value of 50. Some people put it as 100. I'm not quite sure what it's measuring. It's 50 yards or 5 meters, or exactly what it is that it's measuring. Some people have 50, some people have 100, some people have 200. If you look on Stack Overflow, you'll see lots of different values people are using. But again, we'll just put a print statement and return. So we're just going to go horizontal accuracy too broad. Okay, so we've thrown away the ones that are too old and that aren't actually accurate, and then we're left with a nice location that we want to use. So we just send that off to our Singleton in the set current location, and that is going to take our new location, and this is all good, and we've done my CoreLocation, and we've set the current location, so it's looking great. Okay, now one of the things that you need to know about CoreLocation is it says it did update locations, and this is the thing: if you are stationary and don't move, like if you put your phone in a statue and it's not moving, then you aren't going to get any updates to the location, because it doesn't say, it's not, what's my current location, or did current location, or give me my current location now. It's has anything changed, and that's the only time we get information. And quite often this means it's not what we want. What we want, if we might want a log file, you know, you're an Uber driver and you're picking someone up from one place, you're taking them somewhere else. Every second, you want to know exactly where they are so that you can, you know, recreate the map a bit later, and we're going to do that all in MapKit, right? So, or, you know, maybe for insurance reasons, if there's like a car accident, or, you know, whereabouts was the driver and how fast were they traveling and things like that. So, so basically, if you want to get that regular information, we need to have a timer. So in our start updating location, when we start updating the location, what we want to do is we're going to create a timer. We need to go back to app delegate at the top here, variable timer, which is a timer optional, and then down here, when we start updating the location, we want to go timer equals timer dot timer dot scheduled timer and time interval repeats. No, I think we want that one. So our time interval, you can change it to whatever you want, but it's in seconds. So every second, target is self, selector is save, wasn't that silly? Save location, selector, and you can see it's an Objective-C methods which you need to create. User info is nil, repeats is true. So what happens with a repeating timer is every second it's going to run this save location method, which we're yet to create, and then it will, that time will then be dead, and it will recreate itself, rise from the ashes, and in another second it's going to call this save location as well. So down here, and I said it had to be Objective-C because we've got hash selector, create the function save location, and in this place you can write this to user defaults, you can write it to core database, you can write it to Firebase, you can write it to a SQL, Mongo, whatever you want. You can, however you want to save it, you can do whatever every second, and, you know, save the location. But just so we know that it works, what we're going to do is just do a print statement. So we're going to have a latitude, and it's just going to say our latitude is my CoreLocation.shared.current, we might as well use current position dot latitude, comma space lon slash that my CoreLocation.shared.current position dot longitude, yeah, and that's just going to save it and run it. And of course, when we stop updating the location, well, the timer's going to still keep going unless we do something about that. So we just need to go if timer dot is valid. So is the timer valid? And if the timer is valid, then we want to invalidate it. Timer dot invalidate. That'll stop it from running again and again and again. Now, if we've got these starts and stops running, I need to just fix that. There you go. If we've got these starts and stops, then when we're resigning active, because we're only in use, we need to stop updating the location, and when we re-enter the foreground, we need to start updating the location. And I'm pretty sure as a basic start to CoreLocation, that is all we need to do. There's a couple of things that you should be aware of. Now, if you are using the simulator, well, the simulator doesn't have all those, gyro things and navigations and stuff, right? It's a bit of software, right? So under the product scheme, if you edit the scheme, you can allow location simulation, and then you can choose a default location like Sydney, right? But if you're using your phone, well, you don't want to allow simulations, because does nasty things to your phone, because it thinks it's, even though it's your app, it tells your phone you're simulating you're always in Sydney. Now, I am always in Sydney currently, so it's not really a major hassle for me. And the default, I think, is San Francisco, the home of Apple. Is it not? There it is, San Francisco, California. But if you're not in one of these locations, then it's a real pain when you go out to order a ride share and you're actually in a foreign country according to your phone. So if you're just using your phone, don't worry about the simulation side of things. And if you're using the simulators, then you need to allow this location simulation and pick a default location, because otherwise it says none. Okay, so we've got it on my phone. Now the other thing that you do need to know just before I run it is there's all these capabilities as well. So if you're using maps, you need to set the capability to on, and I've selected ride sharing here, but are you a taxi or a train or a pedestrian or an aeroplane, etc. Can you imagine your 747 people or your Dreamliner people flicking on, where are we, fellas? No mobiles on the planes. And then if you're going into background mode, so if you've got the always on, then you want to get these location updates being sent through in background mode, because if you don't set that, then even though you haven't turned them off as you moved into the background, and you've said, I always want the information, the operating system is not going to send you location updates unless you flick this background mode thing on. And then you'll also see these use Bluetooth LE accessories and acts as a Bluetooth LE accessory. If we do some stuff on iBeacons, then you need to also turn those on. Okay, so that's our capabilities that we need to look at. What we've done here is we've done what I neglected to do is when we did our startup thing location, these are the same names as the CoreLocation Manager calls. So here in authorize when in use and always, instead of calling manager, which is the CoreLocation Manager dot startup location, we want to use our internal calls, because there are other things that we want to do, like set up this timer and pull down this timer. We don't just want to start and stop the location manager updates. So maybe we should use a different name, but anyway, it's a little bit confusing. But in any event, that's so I've made these two changes, and then when I run this, for some reason my phone won't do it in wireless mode. So it's running away now, and you can see here I've changed the horizontal accuracy, because I said if it's not less than 50, then we're going to throw it away. Where is it? Just here. If the horizontal accuracy is greater than 50, then we're going to throw it away. We want it to be like less than 50. So what I'm going to do is just going to change this to 100 and recompile it, and now you can see we've got the latitude and longitude, and as I move this around, you can see that the latitude and longitude is changing, and so basically we're now able to track when things work. And then if I move the app into the background, the timer stops, and when we move it back in, it's up and running again. So switching in and out is working and stopping just like we expected. So that's it for at least the basics of getting CoreLocation working. In the next lesson, what we're going to do is get onto our our map and start looking at the features of the MapKit, and then how we can do things like placing pins, which are called annotations. Annotation is marking the map, and then the second thing we're going to do is sort of polygons and line drawing, and doing paths, and also getting points on the map. So if you're at an address, how does that map to a point? So there'll be 3, maybe 4 tutorials coming up over the next week, which will cover off pretty much everything you need to know about MapKit. Anyway, I will see you soon. I hope you've learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because you don't want to miss out on these 4 great tutorials that are coming up. And if you've learned something here, like, and yeah, we'll see you real soon. So cheers.